So your gut is more than a digestive system. It is the beginning of health and the end of disease. In Ayurveda, your gut is the root of all health, physical, mental, and even spiritual. Today, we're going to go over the process of how disease develops and the steps of how to reverse disease. In the previous videos, we talked about Ama, Agni, and the balance of the doshas. So if you skip those videos, it's going to be extremely helpful for you to go back and watch those and make sure you have a basic understanding of what those are while we go through these steps. So now we'll just jump right into some slides to give a visual representation of what we're going to be talking about. Okay, so the stages of disease in Ayurveda happen in 6 steps. And it's really good to know that for IBS, you're really only in the first few stages of disease. So let's go over them. First stage is accumulation. So this is where the doshas are disturbed either by mental or physical influences. And when they start to increase, you'll start to have just really minimal symptoms, might not be very severe and might not be very frequent. So like vata starting to get disturbed, you'll start to experience more dryness. You might experience a little bit of constipation and definitely oftentimes like distension or a bit of extra gas. For pitta types, you might just start notice like having darker urine, you'll have flushed or like red skin, and you might experience just like a little bit of acidity in the chest, but not necessarily like full-blown heartburn. And then kapha, when that starts to get increased, you'll start to feel a little bit of heaviness in the body and the digestion, maybe a bit of lethargy, tired, just kind of wanting to loaf around, and probably a lack of appetite because the digestion is like slowing down. And it's important to note here, so the site of each dosha in the body, like each dosha in the body lives kind of in a particular place. So the vata dosha lives primarily in the colon. Pitta dosha lives primarily in the small intestine and then the upper digestive organs, so stomach, gallbladder, liver, spleen. And then kapha primarily lives in the upper part of the digestion. So your upper gastric, your heart, your lungs, your throat, sinuses, and head. So when you start to experience some symptoms in different parts of your body, you can kind of, sort of, if you're sensitive enough to it, notice which dosha is starting to become disturbed based on where in the body you're starting to feel these sensations. And just understanding that this is like the vata house, this is the pitta house, and this is the kapha house is going to be helpful to know for the next steps. Okay, so now that we understand where the doshas are at, the next step is going to be provocation or increase. And so this is if we keep doing things that are going to offend that dosha. So pitta dosha, if you keep eating spicy food, fried food, caffeine, alcohol, things like this. Vata, eating dry food, cold food, raw food, things like that. Also eating irregularly, that'll disturb all the doshas, but vata specifically. And then kapha, if you're eating, heavy foods, ice cream, like cold, wet, moist foods like that, that'll increase kapha. So if you have the previous, like first stage symptoms, and then you keep offending those doshas, they'll just continue to increase. And they'll increase in the containers that I just showed you, is in the kapha on the upper part, pitta in the upper abdomen, and then vata primary in the colon. Then this is where we start to run into some trouble. So overflow and spreading. And now the doshas have increased beyond their, quote, container and start to move throughout the body. And you'll start to experience symptoms that are akin to that dosha in other parts of your body. So vata, you'll get excess dryness, like in your eyes, more so in your skin. You'll start to have nervous twitches because vata is in charge of the nervous system. Tinnitus, the ringing in the ears. You can have chronic cold hands and feet, and you can have like a feeling of tingling and numbness due to poor circulation. For pitta now, instead of just feeling a little bit of acidity, it'll be full-blown acid reflux. You can develop a hives, urticaria, rash. You can get more pronounced acne or like cysts. Eczema is quite common, I see a lot. You can have burning eyes or like really sensitive eyes, like sensitive to the light. And then you'll start to produce more foul smells. So foul smelling sweat, that would be like more sour, acidic, rancid. Same thing with like urine and feces. And then kapha, when that starts to get excessive and moving outside of its location, you'll have much more excessive mucus in the throat, the sinuses. You'll start to have edema or swelling It could be anywhere in the body, depending on like what tissue is weak. And then you can have just like digestive congestion, sinus congestion, lymphatic congestion, and you'll start to have cold, clammy skin. Different cold, where Vata cold hands and feet would be dry, Kapha cold hands and feet, or just clammy skin would be moist because of Kapha is wet. Most clients that I see with IBS are generally like around this stage 2 or stage 3, because the digestive symptoms are before the doshas like start to move throughout the body, or they might have started to move throughout the body. And so we're starting to see some of these like stage 3 disease symptoms. Then we go into localization. And so this is where the doshas have now, they're moving around, they're circulating throughout the body, but now they're going to find a weak tissue to start to basically plant the seeds of disease in that tissue. And so the weakest tissue in the body can be either from previous diseases or traumas, or it can be like a genetic disposition from your parents that you've inherited, or a degenerative tissue that maybe didn't like develop properly or fully in your birth and adolescence and things like that. And in this stage, it'll start to change the normal function of that tissue, meaning the cellular intelligence of, say, your skin will start to deteriorate. So your skin's ability to now fight off disease starts to become diminished. And then now we have manifestation, the 5th stage of disease, which in Western we consider as like full-blown disease. And this is where we start to see arthritis, diabetes, PCOS or D, autoimmune diseases. You can have like more pronounced or deeper non-healing skin diseases. Like sometimes some of my clients will have like a little rash that'll break out, with eczema and IBS-D, and then it'll go away. And it kind of like this coming and going type thing. Whereas like this then is like full-blown, increasing, spreading, and starting to really affect the tissue that is involved in this disease. And then we come to the final stage, which is destruction or complications. This means that there's no coming back from this stage. We can still reverse the disease and get the body back in balance and increase the Agni, reduce the Ama, and put all the doshas back in place where they belong. But there's going to be structural changes that are left over that are permanent. So for example, if you develop hives or a skin rash or something like that, and it gets to stage 6, once the disease is reversed, there will still be scarring left on the skin. Or in the case of like arthritis, the cartilage can be eliminated or destroyed. And then if that continues to go on, the bone grinding on bone will destroy the bone. And then you reverse the whole entire disease, but that damage is still done to that tissue, to that area, and there's no regenerating that. Same thing if you have like chronic kidney stones and it's like tearing and shredding through the kidneys, that can kind of be irreversible. Not that you can't bring the kidneys back to health, but again, that scar tissue that's left over is pretty much there. Luckily, most clients that I see with IBS are pretty much never in stage 6. I can only really think of one in my clinical experience, and they had really severe skin issue that was leaving like cysts and boils, which we were able to reverse. But again, the scarring is left behind. And there are some remedial things that you can do to that to reduce scarring in Ayurveda, topical applications. Same thing for like acne or skin or something like that. You can heal those and you can bring it back, but it'll never be, as if it were new. So luckily for everybody, hopefully everybody, you haven't reached stage 6. Most, again, IBS clients I see are like stage 2, stage 3, maybe stage 4, but mostly 2 and 3. So it's a good prognosis for reversing IBS. And most of my clients all within 2 weeks see major symptom relief, and then probably total healing in 3 months or less, which is incredible. Because again, all that disease is really in the digestive tract, so it's much easier to target. It hasn't spread out to the periphery of the body. It's like right where all the activity is happening. So we can get everything back in line in that area. So the 3 stages of healing, which this course is covering primarily this stage, palliation. So we've talked about increasing Agni. That's the digestion, the metabolism. We want that to be really strong. When the digestion is really strong in the gut, the digestion in the tissues will also be strong. It's a cascading effect. So Your ability to build muscle tissue will be better. Your ability to burn off fat will be better. Your ability to reproduce will be better. So as long as you're always constantly nurturing good Agni and reducing Ama, the Agni and Ama of each tissue will also be strong, which is extremely powerful. So palliation, we want to increase Agni. We're going to talk a lot more about all of that in the next videos where we talk about food and herbs and also mental. Decreasing Ama also goes hand in hand with the education about increasing Agni. And then balancing and pacifying the doshas. So that's where in the guide that's available to download, we'll talk more specifically about the foods for each dosha. And the food list that's provided in the guide is also low FODMAP. So in the early stages of palliation and healing your IBS, it's going to be really important to follow low FODMAP and Ayurvedic recommendations. And then later, you can broaden and open up your diet once your digestive system is healed into still for your dosha, but less focused on the low FODMAP. And we'll be covering, so like I said, diet. We'll have a whole video on herbs and a whole video on lifestyle and a whole video on mental health. So this is like the first and primary course of action stage of healing in Ayurveda. The second kind of field of healing in Ayurveda is elimination or cleansing. So this is a therapeutic detoxification, and it's not detoxification like we understand here in the West, where it's extensive fasting and juicing and cleansing and drinking the master juice, which can all be very extreme for the body. Detoxification and cleansing is in general challenging for the body to have to go through, because you move from anabolic, which is a normal, general kind of all the time phase that the body is in, and you move more severely into a catabolic stage where you're constantly decreasing the tissues. And it just can be really challenging. It can be very physically demanding. So we're not going to cover any of these in this course because it really is beyond the scope of what we're doing. But just so you have an idea, it's the creme de la creme of Ayurveda, and that's Panchakarma. And so the 5 actions are emesis, or encouraged vomiting, purgation, which is then encouraged and therapeutic elimination through the bum, enema, which you should be familiar with probably or have heard before. So it can be herbal, water, or otherwise different medicated types of enemas in the bum. Nasya, I didn't really have like an English translation for this, but basically it's like either smoke or oil or different kind of nasal cleansing. The nose is considered the gateway to the head. So it's how we can administer different herbs and therapies to the mind and the head and the sinuses, etc. And then finally, bloodletting, which traditionally was used leeches, but modern day, not practiced as frequently, definitely not in the US. And my general recommendation is to go donate blood, at the end of a Panchakarma cleanse. If you're interested in doing Panchakarma, I do offer coaching, and I can walk somebody through all these stages through the Purvakarma, the preparation stage, which is going to be really important because you want to really prepare the body to go through this kind of really extensive process and difficult process. I've had one client come to me who went and did Panchakarma in India, and he wasn't properly prepared for it and actually made his symptoms and diseases worse. So we went through a long process, 6 to 8 months of recovery and kind of undoing everything that had been done, the preparation, the palliation, and then we did 2 properly administered Panchakarmas together to bring him back to a state of health, which was fantastic. And then after this Panchakarma elimination cleansing process is done, then you move on to rejuvenation. And then this is where now the Ama is eliminated from the body, the Agni is back up to strength, and this is where we start to really lock in all those results and start to strengthen, rebuild, tonify, and make firm all the work that's been done so that you can maintain a healthy life. And in general, when you're disease-free, this is pretty much an ongoing lifelong practice. You're going to want to mostly be in rejuvenation phase. Once or twice a year, You can do like a light detoxification. And if you have somebody to work with, once a year, you can do like a big one, or every other year is really good practice to do that Panchakarma detoxification and then move into rejuvenation. And then your kind of like counterbalancing measures, if you ever start to feel like an imbalance coming on, would be the palliation, which again is what this whole entire course is covering, is like how you can course correct gently and easily with diet, herbs, lifestyle, etc. And when in the rejuvenation phase, this is entirely about increasing longevity, slowing aging. You're going to improve cellular intelligence, so like all the tissues to replicate and reproduce in a healthy and strong manner. And you'll generally unfold really great health. All right, so this is really kind of the final video in the Ayurvedic physiology that we're going to cover. Now we're going to start moving right into all of the modalities for healing. So it's important to have all this structure of understanding of how things work. Just like in chemistry, you would learn the periodic table. Same thing with Ayurveda. We need to know some kind of basic key factors that are at play in the body so that we can start to use those tools to heal. In the next video, I'm going to start to show you how to use food as medicine. So we're going to go a little bit deeper beyond just what I have written in the guide of like food lists. We'll start to talk about qualities and timing, eating habits, all those sorts of things that are going to be really key to kicking IBS and in general, improving your digestive health. Thanks for sticking me through this video. You can like and subscribe. That would be much appreciated for me and again, millions of others that are suffering through IBS. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.